Hi friends, it's Mark Hierholzer with Art for the Journey, and this is my third video instruction around drawing the face using charcoal. And my inspiration is Andrew Loomis. He has a number of books out on the human figure, the face, the head, the hands. He's got a fun book out called, I think it's called Playing with a Pencil and How to Draw Cartoon Faces. But he's an excellent instructor, and I have found in him the kind of comprehensive approach to figure and figure drawing and of course portrait drawing that makes a lot of sense to me. So I use him. And you may recall in the first two videos that I did that we really started out with some classical dimensions of the human face, and I'll try to make this so that it looks right here. And using this, in the first video, I just did a quick sketch of this picture here from a portrait that was painted by, of Henry James by John Singer Sargent. And of course, as you know, you can take pictures and using a Xerox machine or some of the apps that are available today, get a black and white rendering of that using a dark shadow and a light plane. And in that first video, I just wanted to demonstrate, and you can see it's on the wall here, that literally without taking the charcoal off the page, you can create a human face just by following the shadow patterns. And it's an easy sketch to do. You can play with it and erase and all this kind of stuff as you move along. And that's what I did in the first video. In the second video, where I really began to work with the Loomis approach, we started out with sort of a generic head, starting with the circle and the jaw and all of that, and the center line and the brow line, and began to move that into a picture of my granddaughter, Ellie, who was a model for a number of portrait classes that I've done here. And in my portrait classes, we start out really by looking at the human skull. And I use this, this is Jennifer, and we start out with her. And behind Jennifer is a skeleton that we obtained. Actually, it was given to us by a very generous person. I won't mention their name. But I always wanted a skeleton. Don't ask me why. And I intend to use it with my anatomy, introduction to anatomy classes that I'm going to be teaching. So we start with a human skull and we study it. We do a lot of charcoal renderings of this, studying the bone structure. And you know, the head is a bone. And any way you move it, if you understand that structure, you can pretty much draw an accurate head, as long as you follow, I think, certain measurements. And I myself cannot draw a good head freehand. I have to measure it. And I encourage all of you to think about incorporating that into the way we do our heads. Understand what those classical dimensions are. And you will recall that we talked about the human head in terms of these basic dimensions here. This red line is the top of the head. This red line is the bottom of the head at the chin. And then the center is the eyes. The tear ducts of the eyes make up just about the exact center of the head, halfway from the top of the head and halfway from the chin in a classical dimension. We also like to look at the head in terms of three other measurements from the the hairline here to the brow line to the bottom of the nose, and the bottom of the nose to the bottom of the chin. And once we determine this measurement, you're going to find that it pretty much breaks into thirds. So this measurement from the brow line to the hairline, the brow line to the bottom of the nose, and the bottom of the nose to the bottom of the chin are going to be equal distances. And then we can classically divide the head up into the 5 columns or 5 dimensions here. So we'll leave that as it is. What I wanted to do today is continue with this discussion around this Loomis approach to drawing the head. And he does something very interesting. You know, he starts out with a circle, and he captures kind of the cranium of the head with a circle, and then uses those certain dimensions within that to construct and determine where the brow line goes, the nose line, and the chin line. And if you're going to draw heads in different postures, different, ways of looking down like this and all the rest of it, he provides kind of a handy way to do that, or to figure out those dimensions. He starts out with a circle, and then he divides that circle into quarters. And you can see here with this, I actually spent several hours fooling around trying to make this thing. And it's amazing what you learn when you try to do something like this yourself. But Loomis starts out with this round ball and divides it into quarters. So we have a center line, and then we halfway around this way. And then he determines, you get one of the intersecting points, and this becomes your brow line. And this point is actually the point on the head from which you measure everything else. And he gives you a way to do that. So essentially, you draw these lines, and if you move this in any way, you can begin to see how, by understanding where those lines are, you can pretty much create any kind of a head you want in any direction you want. And basically that's what he's trying to show you with this approach. And essentially then, we start out with the brow line. This is actually the brow line, and the hairline. So we've got this measurement here, and then we have the same distance roughly takes us to the bottom of the nose, and the same distance roughly takes us to the bottom of the chin. And once you have your ball and you've determined which direction you want your head to go, and you can see here, we've got somebody kind of looking this way, and over here we've got somebody looking down. And so we start, again, all of these start with the drawing of a circle. And then determining by drawing a line that cuts that three-dimensional ball in half, both down and across, and then we determine where that center point is, where the brow line is. And then from there we drop a line straight down using these measurements. Now, when you do the circle like this and then you cut it into the quarters, one of the things that you obviously have to do is to shave off part of that ball on either side of the head, because as you can see here, the head is not a circle. It is, kind of an egg-shaped design. And so we shave these sides off. And you can see here, this circle that I've drawn here comes up to roughly the brow line here, and roughly down to about where the nose would be here. So you could actually, a lot of times you could draw a line this way, all the way around. You can draw a line around the bottom this way as well. But just using these markers, you can position your head in any way that you want. Now, what I'm thinking of doing is just taking these two head positions and working them into faces. Another thing to be aware of is from a side view of the head. Once you bring the nose out here, then you can pretty much put the head into a square. So it's the same amount of distance from the tip of the nose to the back of the skull, if you will, as it is from the top of the skull to the bottom of the chin. So you can see we've got our head here, we've got our chin, and then we've got that inner circle. So I just thought this was so cool. So let me play around here and see what we can do with these two heads. One of the things that's interesting, and I think why it helps to study the skull, is the shape of this eye socket here. You know, they say sort of the skull has a sort of sad demeanor to it. You know, with these brows kind of going down like this, and so you get this downward motion here, and it's squared off, and then it kind of begins to come back up into this area. All right, and so then you can see it on this model here. If you can see this, of course we've got flesh over it, but you know, you get the same kind of effect here, where this is that bony brow, and it comes down around here, and then comes back up, and then up into this area. So as we look at this model here, and think about where we want to put the eyes, you know, I might just draw something in like this, and just kind of follow, if you will, my understanding of that eye socket. And then the same thing over here. You know, of course, this is foreshortened, and it's curved around the other side of the ball, so it's not going to be quite as prominent, obviously. And then we can put our nose out here like this. And then halfway between the bottom of the nose and the bottom of the chin is going to be basically this bottom of the lip. Ellie has a really nice bottom of her lip here, so it would be this line here actually. So we can begin to think about that. The ear. Now, once we've cut this ball into quarters, so we've got the front area here and then the side area, and then I've drawn my circle here, and you know, basically this circle is going to parallel the front circle coming around. It's going to be the same kind of arc, if you will. It's going to follow that, and we want to take out this part of that ball. And usually what I'll do is, I can find my eraser. I've got one here someplace. Anyway, I'll do it with my finger. We can take it out like this. And what we get essentially then is a line that we might draw that's going to be kind of parallel to this line, right? So it's going to really come something like this. You know, that's quite parallel. And then this is going to go back kind of, and it would pick up the same circle around the back of the skull, around like that. So you make these straight lines here. And the ear is going to come right in about here. And the top of the ear is going to correspond with this line that comes from the brow. And the bottom of the ear is going to come with this on this line that goes to the bottom of the nose. And I've got something I can use to do these. I try to do this in really light charcoal so I can erase it easily. I must have dropped my eraser on the floor. So anyway, we can begin to take some of this out at this point. We know where that ear is going to be. And of course, this is that jawline then that comes down. So right in front of the ear, we pick up that jaw and we begin to draw it in. All right? So let me begin to take some of this out. There's another line that I like to draw, which is from this intersection here of these lines, where the ear is going to attach itself to the head. And this line comes down, and that's another way of kind of helping us figure out exactly where that cheek is going to be. And it has a lot to do, with the placement of this cheekbone here. This is a plane here, and you can see it very, very clearly on this model here. We've got that plane here. And you can almost draw that line on the side of that model there. And so I can begin to pull some of these out, and we've got, begin to complete this brow like this. Something like that. And then on the other side, it's going to go something like that. And then you can say, well, we can begin to put some hair on the sky, something like that. And I can go up here and begin to take some of this out. But the ball and then these lines have helped me kind of figure out where the eyes were going to go, the nose is going to go, and begin to clean all this up. Do the same thing with this nose here. You see how well that head just kind of appears once you begin to get all those lines out of the way and you begin working on it. So usually, this brow is going to come out a little bit and then do something like that in the real world, and you're going to have it go in like this, come out with that cheek is. Maybe it comes out a little bit more and kind of comes down here. And then we've got the same thing over here. Now, I drew these eye sockets just, to draw. But you've got this brow line like that. And the eyes, as we talked about from those classical measurements, this is, it's going to be midway between the top of the head and the bottom of the chin, which is going to be right in here, right? And so we can put those eyes in, and they go in fairly easily. And the same thing over here. It's a little bit different because, Now, one of the things that this has really helped me with is I've always had a really hard time with my eyes, when I'm drawing a face. They always, one is always a little higher than the other, or one of them's looking a little off. What I have found is using this in my head as I put my head together on the charcoal paper, that those eyes are lining up really nice, and I can put that head in any way that I want. And then we got our nose, and then our let me see, that face. The thing about these lips is, to remember that the lips and the mouth are actually, if you imagine a tuna can in here, they're not actually a line that would go all the way around the face like this. They actually have their own curve within the mouth. And trying to get that sometimes can be, you got to think about it. And something like that. And then you've got, again, you've got this plane of the face up here. And then if we look at the planes of the face as I've got them on this model here, and you look at how I might begin to fill this face in and put the shadows in there. We've got a plane here, right? We've got one in the center, kind of goes like this. We've got one over there, and they're all going to show shadow depending on where your light's coming from. Mark, let's get this right. Something along those lines. That doesn't look right to me, but I think it moves back over here. Anyway, that's the mouth. I'll figure it out later. All right. Really looks bad there. Anyway. Bottom of that nose. Something along those lines. Something I need to work on for myself, I guess. With this head, again, we have the same thing. We started out with a circle. We created our brow line, which is going to be right here. So we know these are the eyes. The nose is going to come down here, and then the thing that's different about this is you've got a little bit of foreshortening, because as the head goes down, the distance between the nose and the chin is going to get smaller, right? So we can do the same basic thing here, is to kind of eliminate, we've got our ear that's going to kind of come in here, right? And all I did was take this position right here, and that's where we put our ear, right? And then we've got this part of the plane of the face. Figure that out. We've got our hair coming around like that on either side. And we can begin to look at, those eye sockets again. Just for the heck of it, put them in there. And then, so we've got our ear, we've got our nose is going to be probably something like this. We're going to be able to see it. Then you come down something like this. And so our eyes. We got our nose. And then the mouth. And I'm really having fun with my mouths today. Anyway. We'll work on that. So we can begin to pull these out. And it's not my purpose here really to, do a full-blown portrait so much as it is to just show how this technique can work for you. And actually over here, probably not going to see that much of the eye either, you know, but that's going to be in perspective too. All right. And then we bring, you know, kind of play with this a little bit, bring that in. And then we have, you know, same kind of thing here. I would, so we're going to see a lot of the top of the skull, and then we're going to see, you know, the face move down. So something along those lines, and maybe, you know, maybe we even, you know, keep working this until it begins to feel right. You need to get that face. Anyway, actually, I think it's so hard to look at it from an angle like this. I usually like to be right in front of it, but if I do that, then I'm going to really limit what you can see. And I tend to skew things a little bit when I do that. But I think you get the idea here, right? And his eye's probably going to be more like that. And then we've got the brow. Like that. Okay, it's kind of, it doesn't quite look right, but I think that's more because of the angle that I'm trying to draw it from. So anyway, there it is. Like all things in life, it's a work in progress. But the idea here was to give you some way to look at drawing the head, and I'm gonna play with this guy until I get him right, you know. And I think that looks a little bit better. I pulled that eye up, and this whole face is up a little bit. But anyway, there it is. I hope you enjoyed it. You know, we're just having a chat here, finding things to do to keep us out of trouble with this coronavirus. Anyway, take care, and we'll keep playing around with some of this stuff and maybe make some more videos. Thanks.